Hello, this is Luke, and I'm back with another episode of building a self-hosted analytics service from scratch. So today we're going to do some stuff. Don't actually remember what. First, we're going to run our various servers and things, and then we can open up the app. Let's see. Wait for it to build. So I think we were focused on UI stuff yesterday, if I recall, or last week, I should say. We built this visits chart here, this area chart. And, if you switch to visitors, it shows visitors. And we also built this form for managing your sites. And looking at it now, there are some improvements I maybe want to make to that. After taking a week away, there's no explanation here for what this actually is. So it can be hard probably to interpret what you're supposed to do. So that might be something worth improving. But first, I think I'm going to focus on implementing more of our mockup here. So we've got this mockup for the main page. Let me shrink this a little bit. And basically it looks something like this. And so we've got the mysite.com dropdown up here. We've got the look back and the settings buttons up here, right? We've got the visitors and visits buttons. Something about this is not quite right though at the moment. It's not clear how they're related to the rest of the page. So that's something I might need to think about. And like if I go into this mockup here, actually, let's get out of view mode. If I delete this box, we kind of have the same problem in the mockup now, where it's not clear switching from visitors to visits is actually affecting all of these other things, which makes me think maybe there actually is some value in just having that box to sort of visualize that page or tab, maybe you'd want to call it. So that could be something to think about. Then the other thing is these charts here. So the line chart, I think, is pretty good. But these other charts are kind of not right to me. One of the problems is the way the bars, I guess, the bars are facing or spaced, is a little weird. Like they're evenly spaced when I kind of want them to be collapsed like at the top, if that makes sense. And then have this whole thing like shrink to match those. Like if we look over here, this Hostnames one, like the whole box is smaller, shrinking to match instead of the box being like, oh my goodness. Is there yeah, I probably have to click into it here. Yeah, like that. Instead of the box being like that and the things inside it being like that, you know what I'm saying? That's not really what we're looking for. But that's the way that it currently works. And I remember exploring that a little bit in the recharts library and feeling like there wasn't really a good way to actually control that behavior, or at least it wasn't obvious how to do that. And it almost makes me wonder if we should be using a custom component for these instead of a chart library, because ultimately, like just drawing some horizontal bars is not that difficult to build. We're not talking about like an actual chart like this with an X and a Y axis and like lines and areas and stuff. It's literally just like some bars of different lengths, right? So we might want to try implementing that by hand. or, without using the charts library. But let's actually start with the higher level stuff of the page. So making the page actually look a little bit more like the mockup, including even having this box around things, and see how that feels. So let's go to, this is the home page here. Or wait, where did I put it? It was in site metrics. Yeah. So first of all, one thing I want to change, just looking at the mockup, I noticed the way the buttons are written there is like, we've got, instead of visits colon, and then the number of visits, it just has the number of visits written out like that. And I think that feels like a more natural way to do it like that. It seems good. And then let's bring up shadcn and just see what components are here, because we might want to use a pre-existing component to kind of make this space, make this sort of box. We don't really want to use actual tabs though, is the thing. So what kind of, like there's card that kind of creates just this boxed in area, right? But that's almost doing too much. Really what we want is almost more of just like a bordered area. Like in material design, I think they call it like paper, like a paper element. I wonder if there's something like that here. Sheet, I don't think is that. This is the thing that opens from the side, right? That's not what we want. Separator. Actually, I almost wonder if this could be a thing that we might want to use. Let's try messing with this separator thing a little bit. So let's open a new tab here. Add separator. Wow, it's taking that a minute. Must be. I mean, I don't know. Usually that's a little faster. Makes me wonder if the separator thing has a lot of dependencies for some reason, but that doesn't really make sense. So there's React separator and this new separator component. Let's go ahead and stage these for now. Okay. So then in this site metrics page, let's go ahead and add a separator here. From UI separator. And is that it? What does that look like? Okay, so it created that line, but we really need more of like a class name MB4. Yeah, give it some kind of space there. And maybe I would do like MY4 actually, like that. So I kind of like that because, yeah, I just don't feel like we really need the whole box necessarily. Maybe just having that sort of line separator is going to be a good way to do it for now. And then the other thing is for these buttons, I almost want them to be more of like ghost type buttons and then have like a separator between them or something like that. Let's see what that looks like. So if I do variant ghost, what is ghost again? It's like that. And then it kind of makes sense for the selected one to have the gray. I sort of like that. And let's see, what are the other options here? Outline. Outline, see, I don't really like that either. Let's do ghost. And then let's do a separator here. What are the props for separator? Orientation. Orientation is vertical. Let's just see what that looks like. I don't even see it in there. Class name MX2. I still don't actually see it in there. Oh, well. There's the space for it. But where's the separator? Is it... Yeah, it's not the proper height. I wonder what the best way to do that is. Items center. Does that matter? I wonder if that's what's doing it here. Flex row. Or maybe it's the explicit height. Let's try setting an explicit height here. Yeah, so the explicit height does it. Okay. So what if I did like this, just to see, height 8. It's kind of all right. And then if we actually removed this now, I feel like this actually should be maybe a little higher. Yeah, that looks good. Okay. And so then this variant logic here, we're going to update. So if it's selected, it's going to be secondary. And if it's not, it's going to be ghost. And we'll do the same thing down here. So now it's like this. Does that make sense? I mean, it seems like it makes sense to me. Okay. The other thing, I do think I might want this to not be rounded. Class name, radius. What is it? Rounded none? Something like that. So now it's like that. Or maybe I actually want like that, rounded L none. Or no, sorry, rounded R none. So it's actually rounded on that side. And then if we get rid of the separator and we make this one be class name rounded L none, now it's like this. And if we get rid of the gap, it's kind of weird still though, isn't it? It doesn't quite feel right. There might actually be like a button group situation. Where's button? Button? Is there a button group? No. I mean, we could do something like this, but I actually kind of liked it more with the separator. So let's switch it back. And let's just do this rounded none, and we'll do the same thing down here. So now we've got kind of these two different things. And I think that seems all right. And then for this, we'll actually do my2. So we kind of have this consistent spacing. And finally, this will actually do MH or MX2 as well. Yeah. Okay. Not bad. And then this big line chart thing, like that really needs a little bit more spacing on it. I might put that right in the chart though. If we go down here, like this area chart, this is interesting. Maybe I would do like top 4. Did that even do anything? What if I do top 12? Okay, it is doing something. Yeah. And then I do also think this area chart, you know, I kind of want to have an x-axis on there, or a y-axis, I mean, pardon me. And I think to do that, I just add like a y-axis thingy here. Yeah, that one. And the data key for the y-axis is going to be count. And I don't think we need a tick formatter, do we? No. So that's like what that's looking like. And that just makes it a little bit more kind of clear the scale of the chart. Because like when you're switching it from visitors to visits, it's not obvious that it's actually showing different values. And of course, if we had a more realistic data set, it would be more obvious, but still makes sense to have that y-axis there, I think. And having done that, I almost feel like now I want the left margin here to go away. Does that make sense? Kind of. And I kind of want a bottom margin as well. Yeah. So let's inspect this chart for a moment. So we've got our chart here. It's interesting because it looks like it's implementing the margin not with an actual margin. You know what I mean? But with something else. Which is fine. Yeah, seems fine. Okay, cool. So the other thing is actually for this button, I do want to make, instead of secondary, I'm going to have it be default when it is selected. And the default is this black, which I'm not a fan of, but we can actually change that. And, you know, we probably are going to want to me, have these buttons be the same color as these values on the chart and sort of decide what that is. But we'll deal with that later when I actually get to theming. For now, as long as we use consistent variance, the theming should kind of handle itself when we get to that. Right. Okay. So let's look back at the mockup here. Looking kind of similar, right? The other thing is maybe that chart doesn't need to be quite so big. It might be a little bit annoying to make it small though, because I seem to recall it being hard to size these. I mean, what if I did like 32 and 20, just out of curiosity? Does that make it any smaller? a little bit. But it's still, I don't know, I guess it's fine the way it was. Okay, fine. So now let's do a little bit of work on these things down here. And if we look at the mockup again, I do have these each in their own little rounded box. And I do think we want to continue with that in the actual final UI as well. But like this table, it's not the right width for one thing, right? So let's just do 2 of these. And so here we have 2 things that should be side by side, but they're not. Probably what I'm going to do here is another div. And this is going to have basically a row flex situation. Flex, flex, row, flex, wrap, and gap 2. Let's see what it's doing now. So it still has them like this, which is fine. And if I go to page table, I want to do this as like width 1/2. Is that how you do it for 50%? Yeah, that's funny. Calc 1/2 times 100%. It's like, I wonder what that adds up to. So if I do that, so we have this whole thing, which is 1024 pixels wide. And then this thing here is 512 pixels wide. But it's still not fully wrapping because probably of the gap. If I take off the gap, then they go in side by side. But that's not exactly what we're looking for either, right? We could do margin of 2, and then again, they'll be separated. What's the best way of doing this? The other thing is, I think, oh yeah. So I just remembered this. If we look at the mock-up here again, so we've got this layout like this. And let's actually add 2 more of these here. I was kind of thinking we could have them flow automatically, but now I'm kind of thinking that might not work. So if we have 2 more of these, and let's get rid of the gap here. And over here, can we do box border box? I wonder how I can adjust the box sizing on this. Is there a thing for that? I don't know. Let's just start with it like this. So assume we have these 4 things, right? And then let's go in here and delete this. And delete this whole thing. What the heck? That was weird. I should be able to do that, right? If I delete this node. Yeah. Okay, so that does work. The advantage of doing it like this is like if I were to narrow the thing, eventually, well, I would have thought they might resize themselves, but they're not. Okay. Okay. I'm trying to think of how to do a good responsive layout for this and whether we want to use flex or grid, basically, is the question in my head right now. I feel like the flex is probably going to be simplest for now. And then the spacing we can fix with like if I do M2 and then I do style box sizing border box. I guess I don't need quotes around that. That should work, right? I thought that would work. What's going on there? So let's look at this one here. So this whole div has width 512, which is what I would expect. And kind of the idea, like if I get rid of this box sizing border box, I think it's going to have more than 512 width. But apparently not. Maybe I forget how that works. Maybe that only works for padding, actually. But if I do padding, that's not really gonna... Oh, that works okay. Cool. So we could do something like that. And then inside each of these, I'm going to kind of need something other than this horizontal bar chart situation. Or I'm going to need to fix this maybe to work better. So I remember experimenting with this height value and I felt like it didn't do anything. Like if I set height to 300, it doesn't actually change anything about these heights. So let's actually just get rid of that. And why is that? I still don't fully understand that situation. And I mean this, so these X and Y axes, like I have these here and then they've got like the hide. I don't really think, like, do we even need those at all? Apparently. It was doing something apparently. If I get rid of the X-axis one, does that do anything? Not really. The Y-axis, I guess, is somehow necessary. Huh. Oh, and interesting, if I get rid of the X-axis as well, these aren't like the proper length, so to speak. Okay. Well, now we know. And so how do we fix the height on this thing? So if I look at so this bar chart is coming from recharts, right? But there's also this chart container thing, which is coming from shadcn UI charts library. And it has this responsive container, which I'm still kind of suspicious that this might actually be the thing. Or like some of these classes up here. What do we have here? So there's outline hidden, stroke transparent, hidden, stroke transparent, flex, aspect video. I remember there being something about this aspect video thing, right? But if I take that away, it doesn't. It's kind of confusing how this all works. Let's try this. Let's try taking that away. And taking this away and saying like height 12, just to try it. So that does do the thing here. The thing is, I want the height to be automatically calculated based on the content as if it was height auto or height fit. But the problem is the content is like trying to calculate based on the parent container. What if I get rid of responsive container here, right? Doesn't really help. What if I go into the chart now and set height here? Still isn't really doing the thing. So why not? Where is the content? Huh? What's up with that? Maybe I do actually need that like responsive container thing. Now, where is the content? Is there content in here? Yeah, so now we have this responsive container, but there's nothing in it. Is there some other kind of primitive? So let's look at recharts library. Make it charts adapt to the size of the parent container. One of the props width and height should be a percentage string. Width and height should be a percentage string. Width 100%. Height, let's say 100. Okay, so that does what I want, actually. So this is interesting. Okay, let's revert what we just did. And yeah, that's good. Okay. So let's try just changing that. Or more specifically, I'm actually going to make a new chart container, I think. I will call this fixed height chart container. And this is going to have height as a thing, which will be here, height number. So here we'll have height is height and width is 100%. And we might have to adjust these. Like we don't really want this aspect video here. The other stuff there is probably fine though. Okay. And now we can update this horizontal bar chart to actually use that fixed height. Oh, I need to export that, right? Okay, let's go back over here. All the way down to the bottom because it's how these components work for some reason. We would do fixed height chart container. And then over here, we would do fixed height chart container. And then this would, did that update it down here? No. And then this needs a height. Let's just do 100 for sample sake here and refresh. And so now these are doing what I want, right? The thing is now this height actually needs to be calculated based on the number of elements of data. So if we just have one element of data, it should have a narrower height, right? And we know the size and the gap for the elements of data here. So we can actually just do a little math to calculate what the height should be. Maybe there's a better way to do this. I don't know, but it feels like this should work. So I'm going to do it that way. So let's say we've got just data.length times 36 because it's 32 plus 4. And then we're going to add 4 because there's also an additional gap on the top or the bottom, depending on how you want to look at it. Okay, so now these are like properly sized, right? And if I had one of them where it didn't have as many elements in it, it would be shorter, and that would be good. Yeah, something like that. Okay, let's go ahead and make a commit here with, first of all, let's add separator component. Let's make another commit to add fixed height chart container to chart component. And then we will we can get rid of that. And we can get rid of that. And we can commit that along with this, except we don't actually need those yet, right? That was just for testing. And this and this. Yeah. Okay. So, and we'll call this like update home UI to more closely match mockup. And maybe I'll call this like tweak. We're not really doing major changes here, just like minor tweaks, right? Okay. Great. So now let's add some of these other charts here, now that we kind of got the framework set up for that. So what does that look like? Well, we've got this page table thing going on, right? And we're going to want the same thing, but for some other types of values. So let's actually just like, you know, copy, paste. And what are the other ones that we want? So like next to pages, it'll be refer. So I'll call this like refer table. And then below that, there's going to be host name, device type, browser, and OS. So there's 4 more. I'm just going to go ahead and paste those in here. Dunk, 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 dunk. We will call this host name table. Device type table, browser table, and OS table, right? That is what they are, right? Hostname, device type, browser OS. Yeah. Okay. And then we're going to rename these things. So this one is not going to be called page table. It'll be called referrer table. And OS table. And hostname table. And device type table. Oops. Okay. Oh, and browser table. Right? So then if we go back to the home page, we should be able to do, or no, the site metrics thing. So there's page table, referrer table, device type table, browser table, OS table, and hostname table. And what are they in again? So page referrer, hostname device type, browser OS. We want to do it in that order. So page referrer, hostname device, browser OS. And that's that. Although, they don't say the actual type that they are. Maybe I'll just update that too. So this is going to be, instead of pages, refers, OSs. That sounds kind of funny. See, this one, it's not pluralized. I kind of prefer it not pluralized, actually. Just OS, hostname, device type, and browser. And for the page table, we're going to remove the S, so it's singular as well for consistency. Okay. But obviously, these are all showing the same values, and that's the next thing we need to fix, right? So what is involved with that? We need to figure out this aggregation logic again for each of these different types of values. Now, it feels like there's some kind of consistency here, right? I'm trying to think through what that would look like. I kind of want to do it all at once here. Let's actually make, in this hooks, export const use aggregated events. And then we're going to say something here like const events equals use events. Right, like we have here, or data events, right? It's like that. And app state. Well, let's just copy these things here, actually. Yeah. Okay. And then we're going to have a const aggregated events equals use memo. And in here, it's going to do something. And this is going to be based on app state and events. Or maybe we could do aggregation type and events. And we would return aggregated events, right? Okay. So this is going to return, like this returns use query result event area. So we're going to return aggregated events. And what is that? Let's define that. So I might include aggregation type here just for the sake of, you know, clarity, I guess. And then, because like that's already present in the app state, but if we're just passing around this aggregated events object, maybe to a sub component or something, it could be checking this. If it ever gets out of sync with the app state, it's like you can, I don't know, doesn't really matter, but I'm just going to include it for now. And then what are we going to have here? Well, we've got basically 7 types of aggregation here, right? This one here is aggregated by time buckets. Then we've got it aggregated by page, refer, hostname, device type, browser, and OS. So we would have like time, something, page, something, refer, something, hostname, something, device type, something, OS, something, and browser something, right? And that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different things. So in each of these, what's going to be the aggregated value? It's basically going to be a record. Like, let's think about page here. We're going to have a record from the page name, which is a string, some kind of string. And that's going to be to a number, right? And basically all of these are going to be that, I think. And some of these could be a little more specific, like browser could be browser type. OS could be OS type. What do I call it? I think there's something for that, right? Let's look at browser type here. Operating system. Device type. And then hostname, refer, and page are just strings. And then time. So let's look at our the big line chart, which I really should call something else. So this is gonna, we have start date, end date, and count, and visitors. So really it's like start date, end date, and count that we care about here. I almost wonder, I might just leave that time one off for now. Okay, because that's kind of different from the others. So the other thing is here with these, well, yeah, this is fine. This is fine. Okay. I mean, so kind of what I'm thinking, the problem with these is that this is not in the format that's really expected by the actual chart, right? Because it's expecting an array, not a record, an array of objects. And we could have this be in that form, but this record form is going to be a lot more useful for anything else it wants to use that aggregated data. So it's probably better to actually use this form and then have the charts convert that as needed, I'm thinking. What, we need to import use memo? Yeah. Okay. So So this is where it gets a little interesting. We'll do page like this, refer. Let's just dunk, 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 dunk. Page, refer, host name, device type, OS, browser. And then we're actually going to return page, refer, host name, device type, OS, browser. Okay. And so then we will have these be basically we want to iterate over all the events and put them into the buckets, right? Let's just keep it simple for now. And then we can deal with the aggregation type again later. Kind of adding that afterwards is the thing that makes the most sense to me usually. Okay, so we would say like page event dot URL plus equals 1, right? But you can't really do that. Let's do it like this, I guess. Or maybe we could kind of be tricky here and do like aggregated events page. Dunk, 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 dunk. Refer, host name, device type, OS, browser. And these are complaining because it doesn't have, right. Does this work? Yeah, I think I need partial on these. Basically what we're telling TypeScript here is it's like the record is not necessarily going to have every operating system or every device type. It's only going to have ones that exist in our actual data set here. Okay, so now this is giving us an error. It's possibly undefined. You can't increment undefined. I might just do a quick helper function for that, like function inc. This might be good as a utility here, actually. Well, whatever. Let's just leave it here for now. So object key num if object or if not object key, then object key equals num. Otherwise, well, actually, we could just do this. Object key 0, and then object key plus equals num. Fine. And object key string number or undefined. Key I wonder, actually, maybe I'll do it like this. Like if I do object as t, and number is, or num is number, Does that work? Not really. What about, let's just do it like that, I guess. And then, so the idea here is I could just do like inc page event.url 1, right? And then I could also do like inc refer event.refer, which I don't have a type for. And why is that? Where is this type coming from? User event input, or no? Dink. Event. It's this. Why is it this? Why is it not this? What's the difference? So user event, come on now. Site ID, user ID, URL, start time, end time, host name, device type, browser, etc. User agent refer is no script. ID, user ID, URL, start time, end time. Seems right. Let's look at the server here. When we're getting the list of events, it's returning an array of user events. I feel like this should, I don't need this event interface here. I actually want to get rid of that. And this should be user event. And these should all be user event. Okay. So then in theory, this would be like event.refer, and that'll work. Yeah. Okay. And let's just search for event. There's nothing else. So that should be fine. Why is this red now though? What has become red? Oh, just this function that I'm working on. Okay. And so here's something interesting where it's like, this could be null or undefined, which makes sense. And actually, if it is, we don't want to do anything. So we would say like, if not key, return. There's nothing to increment. Or maybe we could say, yeah, that's fine. Should be fine. Yeah, so let's go back to this. So we've got hostname, device type, OS, event.o operating system. This one would be device type. And browser, event.browser. Okay. Cool. So you can kind of see probably what I'm going for here, where we're only iterating over the array of events once, and we're building up all of the aggregated data that we know we're going to need on different parts of the site all at once in this function. And then this hook can be used in these various places. Because this is inside this useMemo call, it's not actually going to recalculate anything unless either our aggregation type changes or our events change. So this calculation is going to be saved, but it's going to be memoized. But we can still just call useAggregatedEvents to get this same data in each of these different components. And yeah, pretty much. There could, you'll notice there's some repetition here where you could even have like a nested for loop where it's like for const events of events, for const property of properties, increment property kind of a thing. But it's possible that these are going to end up with special case logic. I don't feel like having them duplicated like this is going to be that big of a deal in the long term versus trying to make it even more dry, which might just make the code a little more confusing. We'll see though. Yes. So the problem now is figuring out, and maybe I will do it that other way. Yeah. I don't know. Well, let's try this. So the other thing is we need to figure out the aggregation type situation. So this is for each event, it's incrementing the value by 1, right? So this is when the aggregation type is visits. But when it's visitors, we need to do something different. So let's write what this feels like for increment page here. So we would say like if aggregation type equals visits, then we would basically do this. Otherwise, we would do something like this, where we would have const page visitors, which is a new set. And we would say page visitors, or this is actually a record. Right. So we have like if page visitors event.url. This is going to be a record string set string. And maybe I could say user ID. Then page visitors event.url dot has event.user ID. And we put that in another if. So if it has the user ID, then we don't do anything. I guess we would say if it doesn't have the user ID, and really we don't need that question mark there, but it doesn't know that. Whatever, it's fine. So if it doesn't have the user ID, then we're going to add it, right? So we'll do something like this, dot add event.user ID. And we would also, at this point, increment the count as well. And if it doesn't have the set yet, then obviously we're going to increment the count here as well. And we're also going to create this new set from an array of event.userID, like that. Right, so that's kind of the logic that we want to have for each of these. Now, I am thinking I might try to do that nested for loop thing I was talking about, actually, and see how that feels here. Let me stage this for a moment and then try changing it up a little bit. So if we're going to change it up, what we're actually going to do is const, let's just call it ag, page, refer, hostname, device type, OS, browser. And we're going to return that ag object. Right. And this is going to be of type aggregated events. Right. Oh, missing aggregation type. Right. Which I should just be able to do like that. Okay. And then we can delete all these. And now we're going to do something interesting here. So we're going to do like for const key of object.keys ag. And really these keys are actually going to need to be exactly the same as the keys in the event, which is like, it's this kind of stuff that I'm a little worried about, but that's fine. So page we'll call URL, refer is fine, hostname is fine, device type, operating system, like that. And so now they matched the properties on the user event as well, right? Device type, operating system, browser, like that. And so here we would say inc ag key, event key, 1, for example. And what are you complaining about here? Key of object.keys as key of aggregated events. What is key of aggregated events? If I do like type keys equals key of aggregated events, what is this? It doesn't tell me. I think that's like a union of the keys, right? Like X keys equals, yeah, could be any of those. Yeah, that does make sense. We'll also get rid of aggregation type here because that's going to mess this up a little bit. So, and we'll call this aggregation key. We actually will make this a specific thing. Aggregation key. And this is like as aggregation key. I wonder if there's a better way to do that. I don't know though. But I'm just going to do it like that. So now we know that key wait. Maybe it needs to be an array. Yeah, that's the thing. So now that works. Right? But now we need to handle the different aggregation type as well, right? So let's say this piece of logic here is handling the visits aggregation type. And I'm actually going to put these in separate for loops, separate if statements at the top level of this memo function here. If aggregation type is visits, then we'll do it like this. Oops, I need a bracket here. Right? Else, we'll do it like something else, right? And the something else, for now, let's just take this logic and let's get rid of all that and save to format. And then here, we're going to put this logic, basically. But what we also need is sets. And this is going to be record aggregation key set user ID, user event ID. Right, so do you kind of see where I'm going with this? And we'll have like URL, object, refer, object. Oh, actually, I need another nested record in here. I'll fix that in a moment. Device type, object, operating system object, browser object. And this is actually our record of sets. Like that. Okay. So now we're actually going to have something here where it'll be like const I don't know what to call it really. Let's just not call it anything for the moment. So we would have sets key like that. Everywhere we have page visitors, basically we're going to have sets key instead. And then we'll have this like inc ag key thing here and here. And this sets key thing here like that. Does that make sense? So now we have this same logic, but it's parameterized on these different keys. So we don't have to rewrite it for each different thing that we're aggregating. And like we could say like const set equals sets key, maybe. And we could be like if or no, it would be like sets key event URL, right? So it's like if set if not set dot has blah 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 set dot add. Otherwise, assign the set value like that. I feel like something like that feels kind of close to being right-ish. Yeah, fine, yeah, sure. Okay, so, oh yeah, there's this other stuff with the view time, which is really interesting. I completely forgot about that. Let's actually not worry about that at the moment. I'm going to add a to-do in here though, just to remind myself. To-do, also calculate view time. But for now, I just kind of want to get this in a decent place the way it is. And then we can make it more complicated, right? So I don't actually need any of this now. I just need const data equals use aggregated events, right? And I can clean up my imports, organize imports. And like the total stuff, we'll worry about later as well. Actually, let's undo all this for a moment. So we want this pages for chart thing. We just don't want the other stuff. Const, and we could even do like const pages or page or URL. Well, let's call it data equals use aggregated events. Okay. And then this would be like data.url. And the count here is, so page is string, count is just data, right? And I'll actually just call this count. And we're going to get rid of this view time and label stuff for now. And the total, again, we're going to get rid of the view time for now. And the label key, I think we can just get rid of that. So let's see what that is doing now. So we've lost our view time number, which we're going to need to add back. But I was kind of having a problem with that anyway, UI-wise. The other thing is I want to sort this. So like up here, we would do like .to sorted. And it's going to be sorted based on A, B, B dot count minus A dot count. So reverse order. So the largest are first based on the count. And then the total is going to be put at the top. So the total obviously will be the largest of them all because it's the sum. It cannot be smaller than any of the individual values. Okay, so going to need to add the total time back, but I'm not going to worry about that at the moment because basically what I'm trying to do is build up a pattern here for all of these other pages as well. And I might even make a function for this. It's not really a hook, but I might make it as a hook as well. Export function use chart data return chart data. And this is going to be called chart data instead. And we're going to pull this from data is string number. I think something like that is a thing. And so then in the page table here, this all becomes like const chart data equals use chart data dot URL, right? And let's import this. And I guess we could wrap that in a use memo as well. It doesn't really need to be, but we could do like return use memo. And this will be based on data. And it's going to do this whole thing in there. And this also goes in there. Okay. So now it'll only actually rerun this calculation if the data changes in theory, right? Might be a little... Well, it should be fine. Yeah. Okay, so then this would be chart data, like that. So the nice thing about this now is we can easily go to all of these other tables and basically just use the same pattern, but changing this field here, right? I guess we need to fix these imports. In fact, I might just sort of copy this and do this and refer table, refer. And count page. So the other thing is this y-axis key should be called key, not page. And this use chart data should, instead of map key count, key count, like that. And this, what is this? Let's just call it datum. Why not, right? And this would be key. Okay. So now I've removed page-specific values in there that don't make sense for the other tables. So we got refer, count key. Yeah, so now the only thing we really need to change is some of the metadata for each of these things. This becomes OS table, data.operating system. Forgot to update this here, data.refer, operating system, hostname, data.hostname, and this becomes hostname, and this becomes hostname table. Same thing here, data.device type, device type, device type table, browser table, browser, data.browser. Okay, so we updated browser table, device type, browser, device type, host name, OS, page refer 2, 3, 4, 5. I guess that's it. Okay. Let's look at what we've got now. Oh, my thing crashed. Let's restart that. All right, so it's not working. What is not working about it? Let's, for this page one here, let's actually do console.log data. One of the nice things about this approach is if we fix it for one thing, it should basically fix it for the other things too, hopefully. So data.url has /1. All these other ones are /1 too, which isn't right. Why did that happen? Ag key. I mean, that seems right. Are we on, we're on visitors. If I switch it to visits, okay, so here they're incremented properly. So I forgot to update something down here. Oh, this thing. So this should be event key. Same thing here, here, and I might even put like const value equals event key. Value, value, value. And these, like, I could say like if not value, break. There's nothing really to do. Okay. So now on visits, we've got our numbers here. If we switch to visitors, we've got our numbers, but they're not showing the right things. Why is that? Console.log events. So we have these things. So event key see, so we're not really logging or key, event key. I'm curious what that does now. URL refer, URL refer, URL refer. What's going on with that? Event.id. Why is it only doing... Oh, maybe I shouldn't be doing break. I should be doing continue, first of all. That's why that was being weird. So what else is weird about it now? Data. This data is just being logged like that now. Okay, so what do we got? Yeah, so now those are looking good. Chrome, Windows, localhost, Windows, whatever, desktop. Yeah. Okay. So now there's an issue with the chart data situation because we've got our data here, but then the chart data is not matching what we expect, right? Refresh. Chart data. Why don't I even see that here? What am I missing there? Oh, it's up here. Interesting. 0, total, key 0. Yeah, okay. So, okay, so down here, we've got our data. It's got URL1. And then the chart data doesn't have that. So there's something wrong with that. Oh, well, first of all, this should just be data. Maybe that was the issue. Yeah, okay. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Let's remove those console.logs. Get rid of that one. Get rid of that one. And in the page table, get rid of that one, get rid of that one. And now if I refresh here, yeah, nothing's logging. So we can see, you know, if I switch to visits now, these numbers update to 2. If I switch to visitors, they're 1. It's kind of doing a weird blip visually there, but that's all right for now. I'm going to have to wrap this up a little early probably. Or earlier than I normally do anyway, because I have somebody coming over at 2. One sec, got somebody to ban here. Okay. Okay. So I'm probably going to commit these all at once. We will say add use aggregated data and use chart data hooks. Maybe I'll just do this hooks one first. Use aggregated data, use chart data hooks. Yep. And then what's the change here? Oh yeah. So we'll do like add tables for different aggregation types. Okay. And I'll commit this to, I don't really remember what I changed here exactly, but I'll just do update mockup. Actually, I don't know if I changed anything, really. Just the host name thing I was demoing, but whatever. Cool. Okay. Let's quit this. Let's push our changes. And with that, I think we're going to be done for the day. And just as a heads up, next week, I'm actually going to be moving on Saturday, so I'm not going to be available to stream. But I will be back the week after that in a new apartment, and I'll see you then. Thanks. Adios.